There's a video I did really recently about the LA Kings and their horrendous start to the season. But there are two horrendous starts to the season that are getting a lot of attention for a simple reason. Coach Stevens, Coach Yo, who's going to be the one that finds himself out of work. And we are, of course, following up a season where nobody got fired during the season. And we may see that again this year. But I don't know, because there was a lot of pressure on both of these teams to be better. And you look at their overall records. LA started the season with a 3-2 loss in overtime against San Jose. Then they beat Detroit 4-2. They lose to Winnipeg 1-0. They beat Montreal 3-0. So here, they're 2-1-1. Not bad. And then the bottom falls out. They lose 5-1 at Ottawa, 4-1 at Toronto. They lose 7-2 at home against the Islanders, 5-1 against San Jose. And now they go on the road this week. They lose 4-2 at Dallas and 4-1 at Minnesota. They've put up 1.8 goals for per game. 3.6 goals against per game are going in. And when you look at the slow starts, Jeff Carter's played 10 games. He's got 2 goals and 3 assists. Kovalchuk, 10 games played, 2 goals, 3 assists. Kopitar, 9 games played, 3 goals, 0 assists. Tanner Pearson, 10 goals, 1 assist for that. And Dion Phaneuf, 10 games, no points for him, and I think he's got 12 shots on goal. Goaltending has also been an issue. Budai's made the one appearance, 2.00 goals against, 909 save percentage. Campbell has been fine, 2.67 goals against, 917 save percentage. Jonathan Quick, though, 4.55 goals against, 845 save percentage. And the question becomes, did they rush him back after he got injured early in the year? Either way, they're 2-7-1. And their power play is at 8.8%. Their penalty kills at 75%. Last year, that power play was at 20.4%. That penalty kill was at 85%. And last year, Coach Stevens got this team to a record of 45, 29, and 8, which means they have to win 43, lose 22 in regulation, and 7 in overtime in order to equal last year's record. And last year's record got them to a first-round matchup with Vegas, which they lost in a sweep, and they scored 3 goals in that round versus Vegas. And the guy they brought in to help fix it was Kovalchuk, who has 2 goals in 10 games and is on pace for 16 right now, maybe 17. It's an issue of two things. First off, I would love to just throw stones at the coach and say, yep, you get rid of him, it's fixed. But there's a team setup that's set up wrong. You look at some of these names. These are older players in a league that's getting a lot younger and very quickly. Teams like New Jersey, Colorado, they have completely changed the way that teams are put together and the way that successful teams work. The LA Kings are still kind of coasting on 2012, 2014. There is definitely some feel of that when you look at their roster. Kopitar had a great year last year. The expectation was that he would at least be 70 points this year. And it's funny because before this season, I did a video where I did the top 20 centers and drew. And Kopitar I had in the top 20, but there were a lot of Kings fans that said, oh, he belongs in the top much higher than where I had him. And I remember at the time thinking, I'm putting Kopitar in here based on one season. Because the season before, he had looked kind of old and kind of slow. Last season, he was fantastic. This year, 3 goals in 9 games. You can't put it all on one player, but that's where I get thrown when I talk about a coach. He's hired April 23rd of 2017, meaning it's been a year and a half he's been in the job, and now you're going to throw him out. Now, I'm not saying that it can't help. I'm saying that when you look at it, the scoring, the goaltending, the special teams, everything is wrong right now for the Kings. I did a video a year ago when Arizona was in that huge losing streak to start the season, and I said everything is wrong with the Arizona Coyotes. I could probably do that right now for LA. And I'm not sure how you fix it. Getting rid of Stevens? Probably not the answer. So let's go over to St. Louis, because I'm going to come back to Stevens after I've talked about St. Louis. St. Louis loses 5-1 against Winnipeg at home. Then they lose in overtime versus Chicago 5-4. They won 5-3 over Calgary at home. Then they go on the road to Chicago. They lose 4-3 in overtime. They go back home. They lose 3-2 to Anaheim. They go to Montreal. They lose 3-2. They won 4-1 at Toronto, and I thought, hey, are they going to turn around? Nope. They had a lead against Winnipeg. They lost it. They lost that one in overtime at Winnipeg, and then last night they lose at home 7-4 against the Blue Jackets. And the reason this video is being done is because Mike Yeo himself, after yesterday's game, said, my job should be in question. Now, St. Louis's stats are much better than LA's. They're scoring 3.2 goals per game, which is 1.4 higher. They're allowing 4 goals per game, which is 0.4 goals against per game higher. But we'll come to that because it's not really a scoring issue with them. And also, if you look at slow starters, Jaden Schwartz, 7 games, 1 goal, 2 assists. That stands out. And I mentioned yesterday there are certain guys who aren't on this scoring for St. Louis that should be there. Tyler Bozak, 9 games, 1 goal, 2 assists. And Pietrangelo, 1 assist in 9 games. All 3 of those guys should be higher up. Now, Bozak's never going to be a 70 or 80 point guy, but he should be better than 3 in 9 games. Special teams, and I'm doing special teams first for a reason. Power play, 28.2% right now. They were at 15.4% last year. Their penalty kill, 78.1%. They were at 79.6% last year. So their special teams numbers are right up where they were last year. In fact, they're better on the power play. There's a lot of scoring being done to get them up to 3.2 goals per game. Ryan O'Reilly's been solid. And honestly, St. Louis, their forward group looks okay. Yes, Bo Meester's been a disappointment. He's been a healthy scratch. But where is it? Well, here's the thing. Jake Allen, 3.93 goals against, 876 save percentage. Johnson, 4.04 goals against, 857 save percentage. There are Blues fans who are going to say, well, our blue line hasn't helped. It's really on the blue line that this has happened. Okay, but goaltenders with stats like this don't stay in the NHL for long. And anytime I've seen goaltenders with save percentages below 880, I've been kind of in my mind going, how long before this guy's gone out? And the defense, again, I'm not trying to let the defense off the hook, but I really wonder if getting rid of a coach is going to fix the goaltending in the defense. This is, I think, part of the reason why we didn't see coaches get fired last year. They're 2-4-3 right now. Last year, St. Louis ended up with 44 wins, 32 losses, 6 overtime losses. Only 1 win less than LA. They missed the playoffs on that last night of the year against the Colorado Avalanche. Mike Yeo was hired February 1st of 2017. So much like Stevens, he's been on the job less than 2 years. This is why there's no job security with coaches. I'm wondering how firing Stevens makes Pittsburgh score and how firing Yeo makes St. Louis's goaltending better. And that's where I'm having a problem with the idea of firing either of them. If somebody could tell me that, yes, Jake Allen has a problem with Mike Yeo, and that's why his stats have been poor at times, been good at others. You could point to that, then I would say, yeah, absolutely, then you can replace Mike Yeo. And the other issue is this. So you get that moment of, good, we got rid of Stevens. Stevens is out in LA. Now we can win. But whoever you hire as coach, who are you hiring? And what are they doing to fix a team that's slow? Mike Yeo gets fired. What are they going to do to fix this? Because where both teams are right now, to me, this points at a management issue more than a coaching issue. A coach can only deal the cards he's been dealt. That's why with Vancouver having an abysmal record last year, I never once said Travis Green is the problem. And last night, Vancouver loses 4-1 on the road against Arizona. A lot of injuries, and they're 5-4. If Vancouver falls out of the playoffs, which is likely, and they end up having a middling to poor record, again, I'm not going to look at Travis Green and say it's the coach. It was the easy solution, and I think last year general managers finally said, maybe it's something else. So I don't know how you fix this. I know that St. Louis is closer to being on the right side of things than LA. St. Louis has the 3 overtime losses. They had a lead late against Chicago that they lost. They had a lead late against Winnipeg that they lost. And other than last night's 7-4 shelling against Columbus and the 5-1 shelling they took from Winnipeg on their opening night, they really haven't been out of a game they've lost. St. Louis is close. LA, no. 4-1, 5-1, 7-2, 4-1, 5-1. This has been a tremendous amount of losing and no goals being scored. They haven't been shut out yet, but they're only scoring 1 goal here. 5 goals. That's 5 games of 1 goal out of 10 games played. It's not good enough. But does firing a coach fix anything? Now, if I had to say who I think is most likely to be fired, I would point at Stevens. The expectations for the Kings were to at least get back to the playoffs. They added Kovalchuk. They're on their way. And I think what I found funny was when Kovalchuk got signed, and I saw people saying the Kings just won the 2014 Stanley Cup because of the fact that Kovalchuk is an older player. St. Louis, there was an expectation that they would get better. You can kind of look at their record and see where it could have been better, minus a couple of games where they were leading and then they lost them. And you can still point at a lot of their roster and say, well, these guys are still coming together. The problem being the goaltending numbers. That's the problem. And most of the additional players that they picked up in the offseason are playing pretty well. It's the holdovers. So I'm not trying to suggest that Doug Armstrong's going to be out in St. Louis, but I do think Mike Yeo has at least... and I would think he has a while to go before his job's in jeopardy. But for Stevens in LA, yeah, I would think he would go first. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below regarding this issue. And again, last year no coach got fired during the season, so that could happen again this year because, as I've stated, I think there's a general manager's issue with how these teams were both put together. But I'd be interested to know what you guys think in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.